Donald Trump and Elon Musk have made big claims about their efforts to root out fraud and waste in the federal government.
We found hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud.
The goal here is let's not have America go bankrupt with waste and fraud.
But what exactly is fraud? How did we try to find it before Doge? And is Musk's team really finding any now? Here are 4 things to know. To start, fraudulent spending has legal ramifications and is different than wasteful spending, which in turn is different than unpopular spending.
Fraudulent spending often turns on intent. It usually involves some sort of willful misrepresentation in order to get access to government spending.
Jessica Tillotman is Associate Dean for Government Procurement Law Studies at the George Washington University Law School.
So an example of a fraudulent spending or a case that involved criminal fraud, there could be cases where, for example, during COVID, in exchange for getting some sort of loan, people lied about that and then went ahead and spent that money on a yacht or a luxury car or even a vacation home.
Then there is wasteful spending, which isn't a crime but can come from a lack of oversight or even from carelessness. For example, approving excess software licenses or extravagant travel spending. According to Tillotman, what Doge is mainly cutting so far is unpopular spending.
And that's simply spending that this administration just doesn't appear to like.
Despite Trump's claims about rooting out fraud, no criminal charges or legal cases have been brought yet.
So far, I've not seen any evidence that the payments that Doge or this administration has uncovered are fraudulent.
Investigations into fraud are complex and hard to prove, and thus take time.
You're trying to prove not just, money was spent that shouldn't have been spent. You're trying to show that there was, in effect, a deliberate scheme to steal.
Charles Tiefer is a former law professor at the University of Baltimore who served on the Commission on Wartime Contracting in Iraq and Afghanistan, which investigated waste, fraud, and abuse in government contracting.
Fraud investigative team will include lawyers, often with experience as criminal prosecutors, auditors, investigators. You'll see them using a variety of the most sophisticated legal tools.
That could include bringing in whistleblowers, procuring search warrants, depositions, and grand jury testimony. These investigations can take months, if not years.
The most famous and successful government fraud investigation of all time was a healthcare fraud, Columbia Healthcare. It returned to the government $1.7 billion. That took 7 solid years of investigation.
And it's not clear if Doge has trained fraud investigators on its staff, or how Doge is making decisions on what to cut. The reality is President Trump and Elon Musk aren't wrong. There is fraud that costs US taxpayers real money. But while finding fraud is a hot topic now, the US already had robust systems to do just that.
One of the most powerful oversight tools are agency inspectors general.
Inspectors general are nonpartisan watchdogs housed inside government agencies to prevent and detect waste, fraud, and abuse.
These are experienced investigators, experienced auditors, and often recover on average $26 for every dollar spent investigating these matters.
Appointed by a president, inspectors general regularly serve over multiple presidential administrations, building key institutional knowledge. Former Health and Human Services Inspector General Christy Grimm.
We needed that independence. We are not an arm of the president. We don't implement policy. We point out where things aren't going well.
That independence to rebuff political headwinds in favor of rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse is a key part of the system. But in his first few weeks in office, Trump fired at least 17 inspectors general.
The administration has also removed the head of the Office of Special Counsel, which is charged with, among other things, protecting whistleblowers. In addition, they've removed the head of the Office of Government Ethics, which is charged with ensuring that there are financial disclosures that could reveal conflicts of interest.
Musk and Doge have claimed to have discovered so-called wasteful spending in government contracts. But by law, those contract details are already posted for the public, specifically to promote transparency. Presidential administrations do have the authority to shape spending to fit their priorities. But that doesn't mean spending by previous administrations is fraudulent.
For much of the spending that we're seeing that's being canceled, if the spending is not consistent with spending priorities of this new administration, or even political ideologies, given that elections do have consequences, That's permissible and, frankly, a common exercise of authority.
But labeling unpopular spending as fraud could decay public trust in our government as stewards of our tax dollars. And to Musk's claim that waste and fraud will bankrupt the US, which currently has a federal debt of over $36 trillion.
You look at what federal spending is composed of. The overwhelming amount is payments to individuals. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. They're not lopping off big portions of these things.
While Trump and Doge cut what they call waste, when it comes to fraud,
fraud it's horrible, but it's not a sizable amount of the spending.
For PBS News, I'm Tim McPhillips.